afternoon to you on what is a beautiful, glorious sunny day in Belgium. Here on the left-hand side of your screen, Peter Post there in the centre, fingering and pointing in the direction of the start is Patrick Serkiu. We're looking back at the start this morning. There is Wilfried Nelissen, here is Patrick Serkiu. And as the riders go to sign on, we're going to see Wilfried Nelissen operate the flag to start the race this year. He's the man who crashed out last year, and we'll talk a bit more about his problems later on. But here we have Jan Museo still smarting from that problem that he had in the Tour of Flanders when Boskerdin bashed into his back wheel and brought him down. So a great gathering of the clans here on what could well be a sprinter's paradise. But as far as Mappe concerned, Tom Steele there saying hello to one of the spectators. This man here, Brickshot, the Lion of Flanders, a great character. In fact, just a few days before, he'd fallen down his stairs, but he's back there. I think he's about 86, 87 years of age. But this young man you're looking at now is Mauro Cipollini. Not had quite such a successful season so far this year. And I can put you in the picture too. He's going to be a dad again for the second time in June this year. So more lineup, and this is the man, of course, where I think the whole of France is looking for, not so much today, but for the Paris-Roubaix, because there is Frédéric Moncassin, second last weekend. Here's fellow Joe Poels, who we saw, sorry, Joe Plancard, who we saw go so well in the Tour of Flanders as well. And Lotto really coming back into form now with the old 1-2 of Joe Plancard, and this man here on your screen, André Chemil, really. When it comes to the early season classics, he's not a man to be written off by any means at all. So again, Van Petegem here on the right-hand side. Wilfried Nelissen still busy. He's going to get riders cramp here, I think, the number of signatures he's having to put onto the paper. Nice gesture, though, from the organiser to invite him back to be there at the start to set them off on the way. Minali of the Batik Del Monte team, the man perhaps tipped for a likely chance to win today if he comes down to the sprint. But really, all eyes as far as the Belgians are concerned will be upon Tom Steele or Museo. But they've got to watch out for this chap, Isabel. He only finished 11th last year in the Ghent Wevelgem, but he's already shown this superb turn of speed when he took the Milan-San Remo. Barder from Casino, sprint specialist in the Quiz International, when he snaffled the first stage there. And so great gathering of the sprinter roadmen for this wonderful classic, which has been going now. This is what, the 59th edition of the racing. Skriniar come here in good form as well, with Conti now on your screen. We just saw Guidi. Not normally do the Italians come up and look for chances in the Northern Classics when it's miserable, because often it's too bad. This is, by the way, this is Boskerdin of Festina, who certainly won't be on Museo's Christmas card list after the crash which happened in the Tour of Flanders. Well, the Seiko rider Cipollini is the one that most eyes will be upon, but if he fails to get there, perhaps then Vanini might get the sprint at the end of it all. And there we go, that's the gun underway. Nelissen having his eardrums blasted by the bang. Good to see him looking quite fit, a bit overweight I'd say, but certainly he has started to ride his bike slowly. He's been doing around about the odd, that Chemil wanted to shake his hand. What a nice gesture there. Look, some of these riders just want to say hello to this great man who had that terrible crash at the Ghent Wevelgem last year. He's being interviewed now, and I can tell you that he talks about starting to ride the bike slowly. He's doing maybe about 1 hour or 2 hours. He's not done any real massive distance, and in fact he did try one long ride of about 5 hours, but his left knee began to give a lot of trouble, and so he couldn't continue to put any pressure upon it. So we look forward to being back in action, and we wish him the best of luck on his recovery process. Welcome back to the Ghent Wevelgem, coming 208 kilometres today, the 59th version of this race. 25 teams taking part, 192 riders, and they're going around this loop now that takes the riders over the Montsberg and the Kellenberg twice, and the final time they go over this Kellenberg, they'll be 30 kilometres from the end of the race. Still a big bunch here chasing after our breakaways, who have really been living dangerously recently as they come down the drop now. Let me just put you in the picture about what's happened so far. We had 4 men go clear after some 84 kilometres, that's 50 miles of racing, and of that 4-man group, only these 2 on your screen right now have survived the pressure of trying to stay away from that big bunch. The maximum lead that they got was 6 minutes and 30 seconds. We're looking at 2 riders here who survived. That's Poels and Van der Meulenhof. And here the chasing group beginning to get itself established, and guess what? Yes, the man in the rainbow jersey there on your screens wearing number 1, Museo and Moncassin, trying to close that gap down. The gap now, as you can see, 3 minutes and 34 seconds. Wedged between these 2 riders and our 2 breakaway riders we saw early on was that one rider on his own, Lennartz. Lennartz was with the original 4-man group, and also the Japanese rider Ken Hashikawa, Ken Hashikawa, and I think they're going to actually reel in the Lennartz at the moment. Let's watch this happen. Not a chance, has he? Not a catch chance in hell to get on that wheel. He was hoping to get across and jump in with him, Tim Lennartz from the Colstock team, but his legs have gone to jelly. So he went away after 84 kilometres of the race had been underway, and we've got probably less than 60 k's to go now, about 55 I suppose, and that long lone break for those 4 men has had its effect on his legs, and he's now grovelling at the back. So still in front then, Powell's of the Palman team, Van der Meulenhof out there from the Foro Dorado golf team, and this gives you some idea. Little loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, those little twists and turns that come through Popperinge. They've circuited round that's Ypres as we know it, or Wipers as the First World War soldiers used to call it, and we're heading in then eventually towards Wevelgem, and that above Wevelgem was Cotteret, and that was where the Japanese rider has his camp at the moment. So he showed early on, but now he's been pulled back. 52 k's to go then, and the chase is on. Moncassin, quite surprising to see him and Museo putting in so much effort at this point with 52 k's to go, because both these 2 have got their eyes on the Paris-Roubaix, which we've got live on Eurosport for you this coming weekend. 4 hours of the action, and I would have thought that perhaps they would have kept the powder dry till then, but at the moment they're deciding, I think somehow, that they might as well at least perhaps stretch their legs and see what their form is like. And Museo, if you haven't caught up with the results of the weekend in the Tour of Flanders, smarting because he was unable to get back to the breakaway group. And if you look at our 2 riders here, this is a very tall chap, by the way, number 206 on your screen right now, riding for the supermarket group there, Dutch supermarket group for Dorado Golf, and he's on a red bicycle, and if you can read the small print, it's got rally written all over it. As we're watching now back with those 2 chasers, who seems to have got no more than a couple 100 yards lead, I suppose. A rather unusual sort of style, I suppose we might say, to Frédéric Moncassin. A rather long-bodied position he's got on his bike, but a great character, and really has come into superb form at the moment, where Museo punching himself down on the front of that bike, and the chasing group behind trying to redress that gap and pull them back. I'm just a little bit surprised they've done this, but I think what they tried to do on that climb of the Kemmelberg was to blast out a few of the chaps who might have been hoping that they could sit on the wheels and try and open the thing up a bit. There we are, that's your little route that they're taking on board. And in fact, they've now collected, in fact, now there are 3 riders behind. Certainly the Gan rider isn't going to do anything about it. They've collected one of our early breakaway riders there at the moment, Lennartz, and that is what's left of the main group of some 190 odd riders who started this morning. Are they going to persist with this and try and catch back Moncassin and Museo, I asked myself. Well, not surprising that the red and black colours of the Lotto team have gone to the front. Just picked up, one of the riders from the Rabobank team now putting the pressure on the front to try and pull this thing back together. I have some good news for you, by the way, those who are supporters of Sorensen and or Denmark in particular. He originally wasn't going to ride the Paris-Roubaix this coming weekend, but he is now going to ride it. He's decided that he'll ride it, and in fact he's riding at the moment in the Tour of the Basque Country, and then he'll be flying straight back up from that to take part in the Paris-Roubaix. In fact, there's quite a number of riders in the Tour of the Basque Country. They're going to be having to jump on an airplane pretty sharpish to come back up to the Paris-Roubaix, and Sorensen is one of those. Max Chandra is also down there on the Tour of the Basque Country, which at the moment the stages, quickly haven't caught up with in your newspapers, the stage of the Tour of the Basque Country, hang on, got it for you in a minute, just coming through. I know Jalabert has had a first and a ninth place so far and is looking very strong. In fact, he's gone back into the lead on the World Cup classifications at the moment, but certainly quite a number of riders down there will have to come pretty sharpish out from the Tour of the Basque Country to get up to the start of the Paris-Roubaix at Compiègne on the Sunday morning. And good to see Sorensen then getting back in that in the position as being lead on the World Cup to defend that jersey, rather than just swan around down in the sunshine. So, a glorious weather, isn't it? I understand back in Great Britain it's around about 20 degrees too. It's a sort of mini early Indian summer, isn't it? Marvellous conditions, and that I think is why we like to see some more of the Italians jumping around here. They're Polti being to move through forward. In fact, Polti will probably put a lot of pressure on this race. They have withdrawn from the Paris-Roubaix because of the crashes in the 3 days of De Pin, that 3-day race, which on the screen you can see what the position is, so I'll rabbit on about this race. There were 16 riders came down when they came down the Kemmelberg. We had a quick look at it as we came on the air now. They were doing something like 60 kilometres an hour, that's about 35 miles an hour, when there was an almighty crash, and De Vries went down and Redant went down. In fact, 16 riders went down. And of the 16, 13 ended up in hospital, and they've been sort of get themselves out there one by one ever since then. But Redant, I think, was probably as badly hurt as anybody, and so was De Vries. And those two they're making recovery. We understand from the reports that I'll say nothing serious. They're not going to sort of end their cycling careers, although Redant is talking of retiring on May the 1st, but certainly it was an enormous crash, and the field was badly affected, particularly the Polti team, who are now short of numbers, having lost many men in that crash, and have decided to withdraw from the Paris-Roubaix. It's a very workmanlike group. You can see Mappe here putting a lot of work on the front. They've got a double-edged weapon in Johan Mazzeo and Tom Steels in the team. And on the front now, that's Andrea Tafi. Who else? The tremendously strong lion. Got a great admiration for this man. When he got the Tour of Lombardy last year, I don't think that was a success. He'd been well in and well deserved to get. Worked so hard for the team. On that front of that group, we had a quick look then at Francis Moreau, by the way, from the Cofidis team. They've got Cyril Saugrand in the team, who won a stage in the Tour de France last year. He's a useful sprinter as well, so that's why he's working to pull it back as well. So Cofidis might be in with a shout for a victory today. That long string of riders, the Lotto team begin to move forward to the front as well. That Lotto looked very compact, quite a lot of black and red jerseys in the midst of that little group. And we've got Taffy again, riding away on the front. And there, right behind him. Now, that Cofidis jersey, by the way, if the camera goes up and finds you, they've actually got a telephone number on the jersey, because Cofidis are a company that will supply you with finance. You can phone them up, and it's a bit like a credit card operation. You want to go and buy something from a store, or you want to go and buy something through the mail order companies, then certainly Cofidis are the people that will supply you with credit. And what they've done on the racing jersey, they actually put the number of the company. A bit difficult to see it on the screen, by the way, but I've certainly seen it in camera shots when riders have gone across the line, arms up there. The telephone number of the Cofidis company is very clear for all to see. And of course, in that Cofidis team we have Britain's David Miller and the great Tony Rominger as well. Tony Rominger has been down to Bordeaux, riding on the track there, been putting in spurts of up to 54 kilometres per hour in training, spending like nearly a full day at the Bordeaux track. He's also been over to Manchester to have a go at some point in the season, if his calculations are right, on the hour record held by Chris Boardman. It looks, from the reports of the papers today, as we look at our two leaders here, that Rominger may well go to Manchester. It could be November. He's riding in the more normal position that, in fact, you have to now ride in a very constrained position rather than the Aubrey Superman position. And his tests so far show that the equipment he's using, he's finding certain technical advances, could put him in with a chance of getting the record. And the main thing is he's making predictions now that he thinks he can get it. Now, Tony Rominger is the sort of man who always says, you know, I don't feel too good, I'm not on the right form, and we'll have to see how it goes. A bit like old Les West. I mean, Les West, if Les before the start of a race would say, oh, my legs are terrible, you knew Les was going to win. He's been on, of course, to win things like the milk race, and he was, what, 4th in the World Championship at Leicester. And Les was always saying he wasn't very well, and you knew damn well he's going to go like the clappers. Anyway, the gap's coming down from them as a group to poles, but they watch this space for the hour record in Manchester. Knowing the British public, I'm sure that you'll go out there and shout on Tony Rominger if he's going after Chris Boardman's hour record. Big tall chap, this fellow, isn't he, from the Folgorado team that I'm talking about, the Wim van Mullenhoven. I went over to the, you're sick of me talking about this, but I went across to the Tour of Mercia as a busman's holiday and took my bike, and in fact I've got an old rally from 1975 or 76, one of the old team bikes, you see, and this fellow is about the same height as myself, being 6'4", and he stood and looked at my bike, and I stood and looked at his bike. It was sort of, I don't know, a great interest to see how things have changed over the years. He's got a welded frame now compared to my Lud frame, and anyway, nice to see the rally team back in action in the squad. See if it is with one of the lower teams, the Folgorado Golf team. They all bunched together. I'm talking about rally. I had a letter from Joe O'Donovan, who was in charge of the rally specialist development units. First of all, at Ilkeston, then absorbed into the place at Nottingham. Joe's very well. He's not been too good, but he's suddenly got his form back. He's lost a bit of weight, and he writes me nice little letters and sends me pictures of some of the bikes and things over the years he's developed. And it's nice to hear from him, Gerald, and thanks for all the work you did over the years in design and development of the bikes. And I know you're enjoying your retirement, and we look forward to meeting up with you sometime to reminisce about the old days. Going up the top of this little climb here, the Kop van der Wetering. Not a very big, tough climb at all on this 208-kilometre race, Ghent Wevelgem. We're into, what, the last 45 kilometres or so, I suppose, of this race. They've got to yet climb up the Monteberg, Camelberg, and then it's going to be 30 kilometres in toward the finish. The gap's been coming down quite considerably as far as these riders are concerned. They're going to have to hang on to grim death toward the finish, and I don't think, so see, they're going to make it, but you never know. Both have been riding strongly since they went away, with 84 kilometres of the race had been covered. And you can see now with the telecom team on the front here, trying to really put that gap back, because they want to try and set this one up for a victory for Zabel, their top sprinter, and the telecom having to do the work now. They're taking in turns, these teams, to try and pull these two back, and there we are, down to 1 minute and 59 seconds. So that's it could almost be enough if they can just keep going, but the way the bunch can sort of judge this to find art is just unbelievable. Getting certain publicity for the Palmans Listex team and for the Folgorado Golf team. That's GOLFF Golf, not to do with the motor cars. They're in the, I think, they're supermarket group as well, if I remember correctly. Now, whilst they're climbing this little bit, you may not have caught up with the full result of the Tour of Flanders from Sunday, when I had the assistance of Paul Sherwood. He did a grand job working alongside me while I recovered from the flu and problems in the first half an hour, when we had a look back at the old Tour of Flanders, when everything went wrong, headphones went down, script went in all sorts of directions. But sorry about that, it wasn't up to our usual standard for all sorts of reasons. But Paul was very good in the actual event itself, and as we're now seeing yet again an alone attempt then from I think that was Pretov from the Ghent team, if it is, to try and do something like pulling back those leaders. Then we quickly run down that Tour of Flanders, which you saw on Eurosport. Sorensen, you know, won it, Moncassin second, and Ballerini within third spot. And in that group that were away, Max Chiandri finished at 11th in the end. I didn't have time to pick that up for you in the sprint. The result then was after Ballerini third, Schmil fourth, Casarado fifth, Chiappucci sixth. Good ride by him. 7th Bartoli, 8th Plancard, 9th Van Petegem, 10th Yakimov, and the 11th place man Max Chiandri, who's out there riding in the Basque Country at the moment. So whilst we're watching at the telecom, trying to pull this one back, Let's look further down that list and let you know that Museau came in actually 2 minutes and 9 seconds down after the crash that sidelined him. And here we go, more attacks coming up, so I'll try and keep an eye on this and just pick out something else. Yeah, Jalabert. You remember Jalabert? You know, really took a pasting, didn't he? I felt for the poor bloke. Well, he finished 5 minutes and 44 seconds down, did Jalabert, after going with that early break. And what he said afterwards was that his little computer on his handlebars had broken, and he didn't know quite how far it was to finish and how far he'd gone. And when he was attacking and going away and riding so strongly and using up all his energy, he thought he was closer to the finish than he was. And of course, he blew in an almighty way. Well, I don't know. I suppose you always ought to look at your wristwatch there, because the race was going to last 6 hours. It did, and you could easily check off your wristwatch how long it was going to go to the finish. But Jalabert said it's because he misjudged it, didn't beat at the right time, and just blew up in no uncertain terms. Anyway, he's gone down to the Tour of the Basque Country, and I said to you earlier on, he's already going well there, because he took a 9th place on day one, and yesterday Jalabert won the 2nd stage ahead of Bartolini, Ribeiro in 3rd spot, and the overall classification of jumping around here in the Tour of the Basque Country is Hulot's leading from the La Française de Jop, Chiandi's team. Jalabert is moved in 2nd spot, and the Casagrande is in 3rd, Chiappucci is 4th. And today, by the way, they're going from Viana to Vitoria, where they make the BH bicycles with big Hermanos, which will be part of the old Cycle Europe group, and the #1 in bicycle manufacturing in Spain. Ran a pro team for several years, but they're going to finish the stage there today. And we'll give you information on the Tour of Flanders, how they all got on. It's a bit disjointed, I think is the word, for the chase at the moment. Nobody seems to really want to settle down. That could well play right into the hands of the riders out there. In fact, I beg your pardon, I said that Chandler was riding in the Tour of the Basque Country. He's in fact riding in the Circuit of the Sarthe, my mistake, and also in the Circuit of the Sarthe, David Miller's riding there with Van Dres, Julik and Romiger. So it's Circuit of the Sarthe where Romiger's gone, and that's where Miller and Shandy will be riding. And looking at the list of the entries for this coming Paris-Roubaix, they've actually got David Miller down to ride in the Paris-Roubaix with the Cofidis team. Shandy's also going to make it, and the people like Boscanin, Moncassin, Schmiel, Abdul Jafarov, Plancart, Museau, Ballerini, Bowmans, Peters. It's a real roll call of honour yet again. And Sorensen, I say, has decided that he will also now come back up from the Tour of the Basque Country and will ride in the Paris-Roubaix. That's on Sunday. Here we are on Wednesday, and it looks very, very active indeed at the moment. They've got to cut that gap back on the leading group, and those being two swimmers there. Mark Walters has been sent out by Lotte to do something, but look, you see, it's so fragmented. Nobody can really get this going at all. As soon as one rider goes through, the next man comes through, decides to do about half a dozen turns on the pedals, then sits up. Great bike hanging. You see him whizzing around the corner there, finding there's obstruction in the road, going round it. They're travelling at a fair old rate. In fact, the Tour of Flanders over the weekend was about the second fastest I think we've ever had. It was remarkably quick, an average of 42.023 kilometres per hour. That's about 27 miles an hour. The gap's now down to 1:15 to Powell's and Van der Molen, and TVM are taking it over, right? I thought that one team had got to try and get their act together here, and so TVM now putting the pressure on the front. They're looking, of course, I think, to try and set this up for Enric van Dijk or Van Petegem or even Johan Capio. They've got three good blokes there. 27 k's to go. They've got that climb 7 kilometres from here now. I think they might have left it a bit late. Actually, Blijlevens, who's their best sprinter, has decided to go off and ride in the circuit of the South, because they just need extra miles in their legs, and they felt that somehow Jalabert likewise, if he'd gone and ridden the 3 days of Japan, it might have helped him overcome that little problem. You know, he needed a bit more racing than coming straight into the race. And their TVM have now taken over. Their top sprinter Blaleman's not in the race today, so that gap, which is at 1 minute and 10 seconds at 37 kilometres to go, could well be coming down under the pressure of the TVM team. They've also got nobody, Jesper Skibbe. I'm trying to see if he's still in the action at 195. Jesper's not very well. When I spoke to him on Sunday, he was still suffering from the crash when he was hit by a motorbike, and it didn't last the race on Sunday. Our 2 leaders now about to go up the Monteberg, this climb of 1,000 metres in length. It's the highest is 7.3, or the worst part is 7.3%, and the average maximum gradient is 13%. So the actual climb now, 1,000 metres for the Monteberg, but it comes very quickly just before that Kemmelberg, which with its cobbles is a much harder climb of 2,500 metres. You can see all the press cars and officials' cars moving ahead now, because the gap has come down. I should think it must be around about a minute now, and as that gap comes to a minute or just less than that, there they go. The commissaires, we're saying all the press and everybody, come on, get the hell out of there and let the dogs see the hare down the road. That's it. They are 800 metres. My bit of paper says 1,000 metres. Whatever it is, it's a nasty little climb at this stage of the race. And at this particular point, they will have been covered 173 kilometres. And I reckon we're just about on the schedule to finish at round about 16:50, about 10 to 5, that is, isn't it, I suppose? So they're making good progress here. And the gap, yes, down to 52 seconds. A quick look at that distance to the Monteberg, 173 kilometres, then it means that those two riders out in front have had nearly 100 kilometres out on their own. That's about 60 miles, so they really have lasted well in this race. And the field going after them now. Good pressure from the TVM team. Actually, they sent me a nice little booklet with all the information on it, and in that information, they said, in fact, that by 1997, the TVM Wevelgem, as they call it, the team, will have actually done 3 million kilometres. I don't know, they've added every riders to it. How they make it? They say the team's covered 3 million kilometres since it started now, and they went on to say they've used 1,080 frames so far. They've actually been through 2,000 wheels and 50,000 spokes. I know Cape's the count of this lot, but they've got it. Clothing, 6,600 Truin, whatever those are, and 4,400 Brücken, whatever those might be. But I think I'm going to say this Paar Racesocken, 6,480. That doesn't seem a lot, does it, to me, anyway. And 4,320 pairs of Handschuhen. Bidons. They've actually used 61,875 bidons. That's the little bottles on the bike. So my thanks to TVM for sending this sort of information out. They've been having a team now sponsored for 11 years, their 11th year as such, and somebody's been going and counting all the equipment they've used over the years. I thought you'd like to know that. It just shows you what these people do get through over the lifetime of a bike racing team. And Polti on the go now. Well, they've got to do something about it. They're going to be out of action on Sunday, so... Oh, it's Axel Merckx. Now then, one of my colleagues had the nerve, because he's Belgian anyway, Paul Dore, to say Axel Merckx will win this one. And there was a sort of roar from the rest of us saying, well, he hasn't done much yet this year. And there he goes, hammering off down the road. And he's probably going to take us all to the cleaners, is Axel Merckx. And that means there's another beer I've got to owe jolly old Paul Dore. We still have to wait and see. It's a long way to go yet. Something around about... 34 kilometres. Well, it isn't all that far, really, if you're prepared to stick it out and go. And there he is. I'm sure Dad will be watching this one and urging him on. Well, a quick look for you as to whether his father won the Ghent Wevelgem, because he won everything, so all I've got to do now is find out which year he won it, didn't he? But Eddie Merckx won in 1970. So that's the Merckx family. In fact, he only won it once. That was, oh, sorry, no, 1970, 1973. In fact, 73, the year after that, 1974, was when Britain's Barry Hoban got the victory. That was the first British victory in 1974 in the Ghent Wevelgem, which dates back to 1934. In fact, it's been run ever since 1934, only missed out during the 5 war years of 40, 41, 42, 43 and 44, as you'd expect, because this territory they're racing over now was where all the big battles took place, well, a bit further down the road, because we've circuited around Ypres, or Wipers as the Tommies called it, and so it's been very much a part of the battleground, and we hit the Kemmelberg now, and so except for that short pause, it's been run since 1934. Tommy Simpson was second in 1963. Of course, Tom used to live in Ghent, so he knew this area very well indeed. Well, this is it, the Kemmelberg. I'll stop rabbiting on about who did what. You watch him go up this one now. So Tom Simpson, second in 63. Barry Hoban, winner in 74. Sean Kelly, winner in 1988. Sean Yates, my co-commentator on this coming Sunday, second in 1989. Hold on to your hats. Watch this. Mazzei's after him, and the whole thing split again. Our 2 leaders are going to be caught with 30 kilometres to go. It's Axel Merckx that's doing the damage. Merckx in the Polti colours. On the left of your screen there, powered his way up this one. Big, strong fella he is too. He's gone straight past them. The rest of the field coming up. So suddenly that gap, which was 50-odd seconds at the bottom of the climb, has been caught back. Bart there. Then on the left-hand side, Mazzei looking powerful. Jamil in the black and red. Well, they're coming up here now with those in with a shadow. Got to stay near the front of this one. He could well split off the top of here. But Merckx has really got this Belgian crowd on its feet. As ever, the noising, deafening din of the crowd shouting along in this lovely summer sunshine. Oh, God, it's April, isn't it? Summer sunshine. Something's gone wrong with this time of the year, but certainly there's no doubt about it. These are ideal bike racing conditions. See some of them choosing to go up on quite small gears, others rolling a big gear. Some in the saddle, some out the saddle. There's still a fair number of bike riders here that could pull this whole thing back together and let us have a big sprint at the end of it all. So then we'll be looking out for the sprinters who've had to grovel up here, hold themselves in contention. As off the top of the Kemmel comes Axel Merckx. That looked like Van Dijk, I think it was, that came through there for TVM. Now this Polti ride on the front, I think that's Ochakov, won't do any serious chasing coming down here, just take it fairly easy. You can see how that enormous crash in the Japan at this sort of speed when they come down this climb. You really haven't got any chance of putting your brakes on. It was a bit damp, I think, at that time. Somebody put the brakes on, down they came, and just can't stop this sort of trajectory. You're going to hit the bloke in front, he's going to fly through the air, and that's how 16 of them crashed out and 13 went into hospital. What a way to earn a living. Axel Merckx has opened up a bit of a gap now on that big chasing pack, but he's going to have to hope, I think, that somebody will come up to him, because now he's got inside 30 kilometres to go to the finish of this, the 59th Ghent Wevelgem. 25 teams start the race, 192 riders in all, covering 208 kilometres. They've done the 2 loops now, the 23-kilometre loop round the Montberg and Kemmelberg, and they're now on that final 30k run into the finish. But it looks like he's going to be absorbed here by a group of riders and all be back together. They may persist, this little group here. The man there, 206, Van der Molenhof, he was in that leading group after 84 kilometres, so he's happy now to sit on the wheels and let the rest do the work. Just ahead of him is Jan Mazzei in the rainbow jersey. Looks like Moncassin's also made it in that group, and now they're really trying to pull that one back. Yes, Van Petegem of TVM closing that gap down. Oh, looking so smooth there, just rolling up that climb. Andre Chamil for the Lotto team. What a classy, compact rider he is too, Chamil. He just moves at the right time, the right place. Fella's doing the right thing, trying to close up the gap by getting on the back of the motorbike. Naughty, naughty, slappy wrist job as well again if he does that, because the commentators don't exactly approve of that sort of tactic. There's about, well, 8 or 9 riders there and some useful talent in there. And you look back then at the drop on the Kemmelberg, the feeding bottle bouncing out of the cage and fortunately not taking anybody down. If that had gone between the front wheel, we could have another replica crash of the one in the Japan, I think. That little group then still persisting at the moment, but I've got a suspicion they might come back together and we could be seeing a sprint finish in at the end of this race. The gap coming down, the chase is now trying to pull back that group containing Moncassin and Museo, and there's enough riders in there, I think, to bring it back. Merckx, who tried on the Kemmelberg to get away, has now been pulled back in. Our leading group, originally those 4 men, cut down to 2, just left Powell and Mullenhoff caught on that Kemmelberg climb, and then Merckx launched himself through out of the front, reabsorbed by about 8 or 9 men, and I think somehow we're going to probably see the thick end of about 80 riders, maybe even more, coming together for the sprint at the end of this race in Wevelgem. So we have to look out for people like Tom Steels, who's riding with the Mappe team. He won't be able to do much to pull that gap back. You see what's coming up now from behind that long string. The Mappe riders won't be attacking that leading group. They see who's doing the work. Cofidis out there at the moment, trying to pull that one back. And Tom Steels, who really is not too happy with his form, he crashed a bit back, and so he has been trying to get back into form. In fact, on Sunday, when we're having the Tour of Flanders, Tom Steels actually went out and did a 200-kilometre training ride. That's 120 miles, and he did it all on his own at an average speed of 39 kilometres per hour. There you are, that's Museo down there from the same team, Mappe GB. GB being the supermarket group, Mappe being the industrial chemical company, and so certainly he wouldn't try and chase that one down, but if he comes back together again, then the Mappe will have a chance of playing either of those 2 cars, Museo or Tom Steels, and we've got people like Bowmans, Ballerini and Taffy able to set up the runs of finish. Like Museo going again. God, he's so strong, isn't he? He must really be smarting over that problems that happened on Sunday. When you think he's got the big Paris-Roubaix coming up this Sunday, it shows you how these chaps are really determined to ride themselves into the ground. They've gone back in there again. It's certainly every man for himself. They've got to try and keep the pace up now and get some rhythm into this thing. People like the Mappe team, possibly also for the... And why is he going off the front? That's interesting. I thought I was going to say 1 or 2 of the sprinter specialist teams, and I was going to put the Scrigno team in that little group as well, but Guidi just gone off the front here with this little one. They quite got some useful sprinters, the Scrigno team. Polte would never say they are actually strong when it comes to the sprinting side of things either, so perhaps they're going to try and rip this thing apart at the seams before they get down to that final 2 kilometres. Well, Ochakov going away there, winner stage in the Tour de France, because he beat Lance Armstrong 2 or 3 years ago. I must find out from Paul Sherwin, but I did speak to Paul before the start of this programme. He's out there with those Americans. They are trundling around on their bikes, watching various stages of these classics, and they're actually at the finish now, the Americans. And they've been joined by Phil and Pat Liggett, my good friends, who've come back off their Audax ride on Sunday. We'll be meeting up with them on this coming Sunday as well. 25 kilometres to go. Well, things all pretty well settled down here. Just a quick thank you to Graham Shipley of Leicester, who wrote to Cycling following that article which they had about me a few weeks ago, and to Fred and David Green from London SW12. Thanks, chaps, for your comments. Much appreciated, by the way. If we're in a bar anywhere, when we're doing our commentaries, or when we finished our commentaries, quick round of drinks, I suppose. Oh, and a lovely letter I had from Pat Appleton. This lady gets up at 4:30 in the morning to do a post round. She comes from Berkeley in Gloucestershire, and she's a great cyclist as well. And her husband sort of tapes things so when she gets back she can watch cycling on it, and she wrote to me, and the letter was addressed to me, the Eurosport to chap with the trike, a cottage in the village of Box near Bath, and the letter actually got there. Well, quite amazing. The post office doing a great job again from one of their employees, Pat Appleton. Thanks for that then. The letter came through, and the letter's been coming in thick and fast from all over the place. Jay Garrett wrote to me from Sherwood in Nottingham, talking about the problems of listening to Stephen Roche. Well, Stephen will get better, I'm sure. We shall work with him there. And Pat Hall, ditto, wrote to me from Sutton Coldfield, and he's finished off his letter up the Lee, because he used to ride with the Birmingham Premier RC way back in the old days, and he sent me an extract from an article in one of the French papers, like Le Figaro, from March 1978, and I'll try and read it and sort it out in time for the Paris-Roubaix, because in fact it says here, l'autre jour des amis à téléphoner Albert Bouvet. It says here that one of his friends who wrote the article telephoned Albert Bouvet to let him know that an American was wanting to buy the last 2 kilometres of pavé of the Paris-Roubaix up in the north. He's going to take all the pavé and build a replica of the Paris-Roubaix near Los Angeles for the Americans to ride on it, and they could ride along with popcorn, hamburgers and Coca-Cola. The actual article was dated the 1st of April. You probably know the joke. That goes back to 1978. Thanks then very much indeed to Pat Hall from Sutton Coldfield. I shall look forward to reading it. I haven't read the whole thing through yesterday, but I thought jolly good. But they're all stringing along here, so excuse me, I'll reminisce and dig into the old post bag, which is becoming thick and fast. Thank you for all your support. I know you love watching Eurosport's coverage of cycling, and the numbers of you are growing all the time. But can't reply to everybody, but there's some lovely letters and some strange things I've got, which I think I can get to on Sunday, as they're all back together again now. A lovely card sent to me. I'll just quickly mention this from the Vernon family up there, Mark and Anne Vernon, somewhere up near Halifax neck of the woods. Sent me a lovely card of a straight road in France with the plane trees there, and inside they've got this little teddy bear. They have a little stamp of him, and he's bouncing around on some little cobbles, crunch, crunch, bounce, bounce. It says, "Phew, I'm all for traffic calming systems, but this is ridiculous." He's going through the Wallows Arenberg forest, and that's the famous bear which keeps coming through on their correspondence. So we'll certainly look forward to, because everybody they call their teddy bear about, or put teddy bear, now the bear is in yellow after Sean Yates taking the yellow jersey in the Tour de France some years ago. Some zany people out there, they're not all locked up yet. Well, all these riders here, it's anybody's race, by the way, so if you want to sort of nip out and make yourself a cup of tea or go and see Man About the Dog, do it quick, because when this thing settles down, we're either going to brunch sprint finish, or somebody off this little lot's going to slide away and cause all sorts of problems by making it difficult for the rest to catch them up. But we shall see, and you will see if you stay with us on Eurosport. And this is the Ghent Wevelgem, the 59th edition of the race. It's splitting somewhat under the sheer speed, these narrow roads now. And of course, there's a time when the team managers can't really relay any instructions at all. It's every man for himself, and you can see the split. This is typically our Belgian bike racing. And the flat fields round here, and the battle yet to come, and it could be down to sprint finish between this little lot, or will that lot catch up from behind. They don't seem to be too concerned at the back, so the battle has raged certainly all the way through in this race so far. As I say, going around a place like Ypres, where the big battles were fought in the war, and if you get out in this part of the world, you can't imagine what it used to be like. And they had these Western Front, when they're 24 hours a day, they live in fear of boredom and dart of fear of snipers and artillery shells all bouncing around all over the place. And here we are, we've got the bike race going full bore round here, and freedom there of expression for all of us to do what we like, the whole world now, I won't say at peace, but if we think what Wilfred Owen wrote, the man who got killed just 1 week before the end of the armistice, he wrote, "For by my glee many men have laughed, and of my weeping something had been left, which must die now, I mean the truth untold, the pity of war." Written by Wilfred Owen 1 week before the end of the Great War. Well, these lads here, flashing along, No holds bar between this lot, and when we get to the sprint, it'll be every man for himself. And the sprinters we got here today, then, well, Tom Steele, I think, must be really licking his lips. Minali of the Batik team thinking it's a shout that he could get at the end of it all. The Akai boys appear to put the pressure on here. Well, who have they got in there with it? Well, Zanotti, don't think he's up to standard of some of them. They're going, I think, to try and split this one and stop the sprinters coming through. They kind of burn the legs off at the moment. TVM. Oh, Van Dijk, a pretty useful sprinter, but Johan Capio is probably as quick as they come. And I suppose we've really got to say that if this comes down to the big thundering great sprint, we've got to look out for Cipollini of the Seiko team. I've got to try and spot him down there now. He's got a reddish coloured jersey. Haven't seen much of the Seiko. As I say so, Seiko go to the front and start to wind this one up. So I've looked for Bold Cipollini. He's got number 81 on his back. 25 seconds of the split there. That could well come back together. We could be in for a brunch sprint, which will be coming up at the end of the programme. Not long after this break. Don't go away. You join us with 20 kilometres to go to the finish of the race. Just 20 kilometres left of this 208-kilometre ride. We've got about 25 men in a group here, including Uchikov down there for the Polti team. Museo just lying, second off the front as well. The couple of riders there from the Ghent team, O'Grady and Vogels. Suggrounds there from Cofidis, a very useful sprinter as well. But somehow I think these 25, although the gap is around about 15, 20 seconds or so, may well be caught. They haven't been going all that well. They've been somewhat taking in turns to roll along at the front without wishing to do too much. In fact, it's 28 seconds. So with 20 kilometres to go, it's around about 12 miles or so. It's just possible they could stay away. But I just wonder how much work they're going to expect Mr. Museo to do to try and drive this group of riders away from the chasers. And Uchikov there, second in line for the Polti team. The best of the Polti riders, I think, in the squad on this race that can really wind it up with the last 5 kilometres to go. Tom Steele's, the sprinter specialist, has not made it into there. And for my money, people like Sagrin is probably a pretty active sprinter. That's Van Petegem on the front here at the moment as well. Very strong, tough, hard rider. Uchikov just gone third back from the front. Skriniar managing to get their top man in with this one as well. That's Guidi, number 111. And there we are. I'd have thought the Telecom, what's left of their squad, must do something about pulling this one back. Look for pink and white jersey. Yes, there we are. Just near the front of that group. Telecom begin to wind it up to try and pull that leading group back for Zabel. They've got to put their sprinter in contention for this one. Amazing enough, again, the AKI team are trying to go and cross that gap down. I wouldn't say that they've got the best sprinter with them, so perhaps a sort of gentleman's agreement, they'll do what they can to try and pull that one back as the cows take a belated view of what's been going on. This is the brinkmanship. Back there in that second group, you can see one or two of the riders just hoping that the men on the front will pull it back and they'll keep their powder dry when it comes to the big sprint finish. We did have a big sprint finish last year. I'll just give you that run down in a moment as we pick out some of these riders chasing up from behind. That was Frank Covers at Telecom doing a lot of work on there. Now it's down, you see the 19 seconds. It is Telecom doing a lot of work. Rabobank in there. Well, they don't have a great sprinter, but nevertheless I think they'd like to have a chance perhaps of catching the sprinter specialist on the hop, but it's really got to be Telecom winding this one up, and that's Brian Holm, the Danish rider, 173 going through. Sitting a bit low in the saddle, but he seems to obviously like that position. Next shout coming through and saying it's my turn, my burst in the bow. That was Van Heijswijk, Bets Van Heijswijk, who rode with the Motorola team last year. And I can't understand quite why these AKI boys are going so hard at the front. We're just looking then at Radelli, Mauro Radelli, number 96. But certainly Telecom winding it up together with the Rabobank team. That's the Houghton going forward. Well, Robbie McEwen actually riding for Rabobank. He's got a pretty good turn of speed, and I think when it comes down to the sprint, he is probably their best hope for a victory. He's come into good form, actually, Robbie has. He seems to have a sort of fairly quietish start to his career as a professional, but he's starting to come good this season. And Zabel, well, that's the man, I suppose all eyes will be on him when it comes to the sprint if this junction comes about. They've really got to keep motoring there. You can't sort of relax at all for a moment and just say, well, give us half a chance and we'll take a bit of a breather and then come up just slowly but surely. They've really got to keep going at this one. So quickly looking back then at last year's sprint finish, we had Tom Steels won that one ahead of Lombardi, who has now moved from his team. So in fact Lombardi last year riding with the Poulty squad. He's now riding with the Telecom team, and so Zabel and Lombardi, serious threat then for the sprint. We're looking at the back of this little group at 151. That's Fadigata, the man who pipped Chandri for the sprint finish in the Leeds Classic last year, and he's quite a useful turn of speed. He went on to get the championship of Zurich on the track there, so he can go well. And sensibly enough, I think he's staying close to Museo to see what he's up to. And just up in front is Fabrizio Guidi. So let's go back then to what happened last year. The big sprint finish. Tom Steels got that from Lombardi. Baldata was in third spot. Michelson was fourth. Van Bonn, who's in this little group chasing at the moment, in the group chasing this one, he was fifth. Boskert in sixth. Strazza seventh. Strazza's also riding today, by the way, so he could be suddenly funding out the little group. Capio eighth. He's for the TDM team. He's in that little lot today. Chimil was also there today. Was ninth. And Zabel, in fact, finished in 11th spot last year. And there we are, we're just 18 kilometres to go. They can see the group down the road on these twists and turns. They just can't quite pull back that 25-man leading group. So it might be not a sprint yet. 16 seconds the gap then, was 14, so they're probably holding them, I suppose, until we get out of these little narrow lanes onto the smoother, faster roads. And it might have to erupt a little bit because at the back there you can see Museo's decided he's going to ease back from doing all the work. They've been watching Museo pounding him on the front, so he's looking over his shoulder because Museo knows full well that providing Steels has made up this little group, Steels will be one of the chats with him with a shout for a sprint. So why should Museo drive that leading group forward all the way through to the finish and then not have the strength left to get the victory when if his man comes through? Looking back down there to see where the map AGB team, there's 1, 2, 3 of them I think I can see at the moment. 4, oh yes, they're okay. They should perhaps, they can't really chase down Museo, but it'd be interesting if Museo decides if he gets to around about 10 seconds just to sit up and drift back. You can see how close it is on our telephoto lens that they could well be all back together again in this Belgian Classic. It's not part of the World Cup series, but so many bike races going around here. I mean, it's an amazing country, Belgium. It's got more than 400 kinds of beer, 300 different cheeses, and in fact more Michelin star restaurants per capita even than France as such as well. So it's an amazing country, and I can certainly recommend the food. Unfortunately, on Saturday night with a touch of the flu, I didn't manage to finish off my eels. I had some lovely roast eels with the tartar sauce, and didn't feel so good, so that was that. But nevertheless, the gastronomy is quite useful and quite good, and using enormous portions of it too. So be expecting to really have to sit and work your way through a big mountain of food if you come to Belgium and want to go to a nice restaurant and enjoy the cuisine. What the hell of bike riders aren't there? There should be enough concerted effort from some of the teams to pull that gap back 14 seconds. Look at it. They really are travelling some now. They're around about 30 miles an hour. And you see what happens here too at the front. If you just suddenly, as one of the GAN riders, whether it's Vogels or Grady, if you just begin to lose a bit of momentum and you suddenly feel a bit tired, a gap opens up, then you just can't close that one down, and the thing splits. And nobody likes that at all. So the other riders then quickly try and close that gap down. That's Sogra on the back, by the way, number 221, a road with the that team from the north of Paris, Aubervilliers, which is an area of Paris, a bit like, I would say Islington, but it's a bit further north than that as in relation to London, but certainly it's a part of Paris, Aubervilliers, and they sponsor the team, now been co-sponsored by a company called Big Matt and Peugeot, but Sogran switched across to the Cofidis team, and look, his teammate is beginning to drop back here now to see where he's got to, and so they're going to work together. And Sogran scored that brilliant little sprint success in the Tour de France last year, so he's hanging on at the back end. His teammate's gone back for him now just to keep an eye on him. And it's Philip Gaumont, I think, has gone back to. But Gaumont already this year was the very strong lone break. He's been putting some big rides this season, so he's got the power there. And look, see what Moselle doesn't quite know what to do. I think he's wandering back and having a look. That's where he's got to stay and sort of get the whip out and keep this one going, or wait for the rest of his team to come up with Tom Steels in with a shout for the sprint. It's a very difficult position. There's so many riders in this field. In fact, Moselle could well do a good sprint out of this little lot. He's got a good turn of speed, and I say, looking down there, only people like Sogran are noted sprinters. Ocheval there, just going out to your picture, likes to go for a long way out. The O'Grady and Vogels could be a threat. This is the place where I thought the chasing group then, and there's the sort of average speed at which they're going now. They got to 51. The average so far was 40. They're now up to 51 kilometres per hour. And this is the long straight stretch, but I thought the relays from behind, as we're now watching on our screen, might well pull back that leading group. That's Tom Steels sitting in there just in second spot back. He won't aid this chase at all. He's going to wait for somebody else to take him up. But see what he's done, he's making sure that when he's close to the front there, Cipollini's starting to come through as well at long last. Well, I can't see many psycho riders about the place, so the bold Cipollini has probably got to hope that the work being done by the Rabobank squad or the AKI people might do something about it. The telecoms seem to be doing it in dribs and drabs, so you've got the blue colour there, Tom Steels, the man with the red shorts, Cipollini behind in the nice multicoloured shoes. And both these two living dangerously at the moment, because unless they pull that group back, they're looking at down your screen now, where they won't be in for anything more than about 26th place. Oh, the speed of this fellow on the front. Oh dear me, it's gone a bit too quick. That's still the trouble. When you go too quick on the front and the little gaps open up, then that causes the whole thing to break down a little bit. You can see that. And they've got to reform and get the rhythm going again. He just went a bit too hard off the front then. Ferrigata is quite happy to go through to the front. He had been sitting on Moselle's wheel, but perhaps he realised that Moselle is not going to do too much to drive this one forward, so he's got to go up there and give it some encouragement. Oh, it's grown. It has suddenly grown. The very place I thought that it would start to come back down, it has grown somewhat. Big switch for Uchukoff. He's been riding quite hard in the front at the moment. I reckon the Psycho have got a couple there riding. I think Calcaterra's in this little group, together with Fornaciari, and if there's one of them, that's making life difficult then for Cipollini back in that group, and the gap's growing all the time. That group of some 25 riders. The lead now over half a minute moving into the final few kilometres, and at the back there you can see just with 9 to go. They may have done just enough to stay out, and the chasing group might have given it up now. And so who's going to get this this sprint finish at the end of it all? I said that they've got some riders in here, Seika. They've got Skira there. Reynolds now without their man Cipollini to contend with. Could be well looking for a chance of going in and getting this victory on their own. 48 seconds, that's it. It looks like the The elastic well has well and truly been broken now. And Saika with what, at least 2 or 3 riders in that group. This is our chasing group again, trying to put some life into it, as Loader then trying to take up the chase. And look, see, Zabel isn't going to do anything about it at all. So the top sprinters, Zabel, Steels, Cipollini, have now really been shot. So there's no way that the Skriniar ride is going to chase down that one up in front. MG should do something about it. Loader tried to go through, but that's all. And it doesn't mean that if Telecom's got enough men to pull that back now. So the sprinters have lived dangerously, and they may live to regret it. Split the thing up now. They'll all come back together again. There's Joe, I think, happily sitting in the second. He's got to watch out for the old 1-2s coming up, because first Psycho can go, and then Lotto can go, and Gan can do the same thing as well. Oh, they're jumping all over the place. Yes, this is it. It's going to be around for himself inside the 8 kilometres. Less than 5 miles to go. You've got to judge this to perfection, though. And that, I think, was so ground that went across that little gap, following on behind the Gan rider. It's either O'Grady or Vogels, and he had been sitting at the back with his teammate Gaumont, waiting for the lead out, but perhaps he's realised now that they're getting into these final 5 miles. You can't allow these gaps to grow up too much. And in fact, the rider from the Lotto team in that little group at the moment, number 18, Henri Chamil, who is no sprinter, so he had to go and ride off the front and ride hard. Now, indecision behind will mean that those 3, in fact, no, they've just been caught now. And as you say that, bang, off goes another attack. Well, with 25 riders in this group, this is what I call a commentator's nightmare. My screen is so blurred I can't see the numbers half the time, just trying to pick the riders out by their shape and their tactics. And the long-haired Uchikov there for the Polti team, following on behind Fedigato, who to my knowledge is the only man from the Ross Lotto team in this little group. Mazzeo really is biding his time. He's been driving this thing along so far and so hard, but to just ease back now. Well, that's because he wants to come good towards the back end and start to steamroll his way through here or not, I don't know. Here he is, right at the back. Well, that's amazing, isn't it? He's been such a powerful man in this break so far, and now he's letting all these lot jump around at the front, and you can't let a man like this fellow go. Uchikov, by 6 kilometres, I think he's just a bit too far for him. And so Van Petegem going after him. Jamil still staying up near the front. All round safely. And still Guidi at the back there for the Skriniar team is taking a bit of a risk as well, I think. He's got quite a useful sprint. And still these chaps who like to go for a long one are putting the pressure on the front. It makes it very difficult then to close that gap down. Unless the pace goes off at the front and they all congeal, it could be that these chaps who like to go for a long one will be able to just rip away. And if that's O'Grady, well, we'll have to see if O'Grady's going for this one, because he, again, being a very good trackman, and when it comes to riding at this sort of speed, at this sort of distance, past gold medalist in the Australian team pursuit team, then certainly he's got the ability to stay out there from this little lot. And has he gone and left them for dead now? If he has, that's going to be a tremendous performance. The gaps have opened up already, and that's a brilliant piece of tactical riding, and he really has made it hurt for these riders behind him, and they've really got to try and go some now to catch this fella. It is Stuart O'Grady for Australia. Are we going to see the Australian take this one? He timed it to perfection. Well, the Ghent team will be jumping up and down with this one. They had hoped that Moncastle will be in with a sprint at the end of it all, but it's O'Grady that really has caught that lot napping. But has he gone too soon? Stuart O'Grady then. Points champion of Australia in 1990 on the track. He's got the ability to ride flat out on the track for this sort of distance. And so now with just less than 5 kilometres to go, O'Grady has thrown caution to the wind and he's trying to get this victory. The long string of riders now chasing after Stuart O'Grady. He comes from Adelaide in Australia, and there should be enough riders here to pull him back. And so inside those final 5 kilometres, distance which he's quite used to pursuing over, he's got that sort of strength and ability with a lot of top talent behind him. And here he is out the saddle and ploughing along here. Member of the Team Pursuit Championship team of the world in 1993, and again in the World Championships. Olympic, he was, what, second in the Olympics for the pursuit, this man here. So it looks like he's got the ability, but I think he might have gone just a bit too soon, O'Grady. He's beginning to slow down a bit now. He took a second place in the Catalan week, just a bit back, and he's got a victory under his belt recently, which I'll find in my notes in just a moment, but it's going to be a bit difficult to watch that, get all the facts up to date for you. But that fellow there looks like he's just going to come short of this one. He's got to really try to hang on in there. And still the Lotto team are determined to try and pull him back. With O'Grady must have gone just a snitch too soon, and he shouldn't look back at this. One thing he will have done though is it's now come back together. He's made it make life a bit easier for Ghent Wevelgem, who is in there for Ghent. Another one from Australia, who's in that little group as well. So the Aussies try to work the old 1-2, and O'Grady now has blown his gasket and drifted back. He tried so hard, he just went a little bit early, I think, for my money. And he's going back toward the back of the field, where he was Casarato of the Scrigno team, who took a third place in the Grand Prix of Wallonie just, 12 days ago. And we've got one of the Refin riders there at the moment, who I haven't picked out from that little group. The speed is intense. They're travelling at around about 50 kilometres an hour, just on 30 miles an hour. It makes it so difficult for anybody to jump away. We saw O'Grady try to do it, and it didn't quite work. And Pettigrew still in there. They must be wondering now, this little lot, who's got the swiftest sprint. And certainly, I think that I would be very much looking for Sogran to pop out this little lot. But here, I think we're going to see a bit of an attack by, I think it's Casarato moving down the inside. And again, another jump coming. The Scrigno team are doing just the right thing by throwing riders into this little one, taking it in turns. One to go, then the other one to go. And in fact, Puccini for the Refin team in there. He's lying 1, 2, 3, 4th back from the front. He's been doing a lot of right things there. We haven't seen much of Fatigato recently, the black and yellow colours of Rosotto. He's trying hard to wind the thing up, as was Museo. They've gone back, leaving it to the two-man teams like Ghent, like Scrigno, like Lotto to do most work, and like Seiko too as well. And Boniciari for Seiko, I think it was, that was moving on to the wheel just to hold that one back. Numerically, I think the Lotto look like they've got one extra man in this little group. Well, that's Puccini at the back, 144. And the Polti rider still keeping this speed up. And yet again, the same sort of tactics from the Scrigno team. The softening up process. It's because we don't have, except for Sogran, what I call a real out-and-out sprinter. So now Ochakov's going to try exactly the same sort of thing he did when he's got stage victory in the Tour of Italy, the Tour of Spain, Tour of France as well. He rides away off the front, but the speed at which they're going, it's very, very difficult to get away. They're all taking in turns. Van Petegem's gone across to catch him. And here at the back then, Sogran's still in the Cofidis, the blue shorts. Look, he's with his teammate here, and he's got Gaumont with him, so it's a nice little lead up. They've gone to back and bide their time. So has Museo gone to back and bide his time too. Van Petegem on the left-hand side is still going for that long one, which he tried to get as he went after Uchikov. Has he got the strength left in his own? Sogran starts to come through. Sogran in the centre for Cofidis, looks over his shoulder. It looks like he's left it late, though. Gaumont's going to have to go for this one. His teammates launch himself away from him. Has he gone too soon? No, he's got it. Has gone to the Cofidis team. I'm sure that was Gaumont that got it. We'll have to wait for confirmation of that one. Absolutely superb time sprint by the Cofidis riders, and I thought for a moment that they were setting it up for Sogran, but it could be his teammate, who I think was Gaumont. We'll have to wait and get a double check on that one, because we didn't have time to get all those 25 riders down on a bit of paper here, but when we get the close-up on that one, certainly it looked like Cofidis got that success, and they'll be overjoyed with that one. And those two riders from Cofidis played it absolutely to perfection towards the end, and it was Gaumont that got it. 2:25 here, going back down now, 42 kilometers per hour, and I thought he was going to lead Sogran out, and he went the other way, but he got across the line and took the victory ahead of his teammate. I'm not quite sure whether he was leading his teammate out and suddenly found he could still keep going with his teammate Blue, but nevertheless it gave him that victory, and a victory then as we go back and look at the rest of the field coming in. In fact, no mistake, we're looking at an action replay. I took my head off the screen, but this is an action replay of them coming down into the finish. When you see on the left-hand side of your screen, when the Cofidis riders start to go through, and those two riders from Cofidis, I thought they were setting it up for Sogran, but in fact Sogran on the front there starts to ride forward, and Gaumont is on his wheel. And watch now, see what happens. Gaumont then starts to come off Sogran. Sogran looks over his shoulder at the man who would normally be leading him out, and there goes Gaumont. And chased on the inside, I think that was Chamil up the inside, Van Petegem into third spot. Ferrigato on the far right-hand side starts to come through. Museo's not in the shout. There we are. I wouldn't like to say he was second out of that little lot. As we look at the rest of the field coming in here, my good friend David Miller of the Cofidis team is going to be rather overjoyed, I'm sure, to know that they've got a victory here today with that superb sprint from Philippe Gaumont. And this is the rest of the pack coming in for the secondary places. In fact, I think the prize went down to 25th spot, so they could be sprinting for no more than a few points in the UCI list, actually. And when we get our breath back, and Sogran here is being interviewed, just a quick comment that Gaumont's been interviewed. On Sunday I was going to mention and forgot to mention the Archer Grand Prix, which has been sponsored by Cycling Weekly on this occasion, because they had a few financial problems getting a sponsor, did the Archer Grand Prix people, and Cycling Weekly stepped in at the last minute. And I was going to mention it very deliberately, not because it dates back to 1956 if we look at this one, but because Paul Sherwin won it in 1976 and 77, and he was my co-commentator on Sunday for the Tour of Flanders. And Mark Bell in 83 won it, the Archer Grand Prix, and of course his brother Tony Bell was the one who went to write the article on cycling for me. And Hugh Porter, my co-commentator, won the race in 1966. So I'm sorry I didn't mention the old Archer Grand Prix, sponsored by Cycling Weekly, but it was a bit hectic on Sunday. There we are, Museo coming in, who is still, I think, a bit unhappy about the work he had to do today. He didn't get the victory he'd been looking for, and it went then to Philippe Gaumont. And this is the rest of the group coming in. Well, Gaumont, winner last year of the 4 days of Dunkirk and the Tour de l'Oise, certainly has thrown his hat into the ring this season, and no doubt about that clear sprint which took him across the line ahead, I think it was, of Chamil and Van Petegem. We'll have to wait for the official result to come up just to confirm that one. And he comes actually from Amiens, as Philippe Gaumont, which of course is up in the north side of France. And his favourite hobbies are fishing and motorcycles. I hope he's not one of those lovers of Harley-Davidson. There's more Harley-Davidsons owned by the cycling fraternity, I think, than any other sports lot. But there we are. That's the victor of this, the 59th Ghent Wevelgem, over 208 kilometres. Philippe Gaumont for the Cofidis team, chalking up a spectacular sprint at the end of the race. That, I'm sure, will give the Cofidis management some encouragement. They come into the sport this year, sponsoring the team for the first time, and of course they signed up Lance Armstrong, who not long after being signed was found to, of course, be suffering from testicular cancer. So I'm sure that Lance, who's actually over in Europe at the moment, be very pleased indeed to see his teammate getting that victory there. So, well, we shall be back on air on Sunday the 13th of April, live on air that is, but also we're going to look at the Paris-Roubaix on Thursday evening. I think